Listen, I want you to like live the life you want to live.
Yeah.
You just can't complain about the choices you make.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if that's like you work your ass off and then you complain about having no time for your kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's a choice, brother.
Something I say to myself often is nobody likes to go first, nobody likes to go alone. For me, I remind myself that tremendous opportunities and responsibilities are bestowed upon the people who are consistently willing to go first or go alone if they have to.
Like my dad grew up like really, really, really bad. Like
What do you mean?
we call the other side of the tracks.
Kind of.
To where like extreme verbal abuse, actual abuse. Father was a raging alcoholic. So bad, like one of the things he asked his mother when he was like 55 was like, "Why'd you beat me so much?"
Really?
She's like, "That's just the way it was."
Wow.
Right? So like, I don't know anything about Dad's childhood because he doesn't talk about it because it's just pain. If I believe that God's going to provide, what do I have to worry about?
Yeah, amen. Man, that's so good.
Why am I stressing? What am I worried about?
Yeah.
If it's going to be there when it's supposed to be there, why am I worried about what time it arrives?
Wait, yeah, but what? Yeah, you came out the shower.
Came out of the shower, went on the porch, talked to Paula. I was like, I think God just spoke to me. I've never said that to her, or ever said that out loud.
Yeah.
Or ever said that, period.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a skill. First of all, I think a lot of people think that some people are just good at it, and it may appear that way, but a lot of times if you look back in those people's lives, it's like all of their life experience cumulatively have they either developed that skill out of like a survival mechanism or whatever. They had a job or a parent that was really good at it. So I don't think that people are naturally good communicators, but it's something that I'm really working hard to become as well. Jack just taught me about this thing that apparently everybody does it. It's called quick matching, where like if I say like, oh, I don't know, like, man, my parents, whatever, I was poor when I grew up, and you be like, instead of you asking me another question, which a good communicator would do, that a good conversation would ask another question to go deeper, you'd be like, oh man, yeah, we were kind of like middle class, but like, but my dad never made any money. Like, you're quick matching. You think that that's the way to relate. You throw something out, but instead,
right. It's like validating versus inquiring.
Or relating rather than connecting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when I heard Jack talk about it, he actually talked about it on the episode that we recorded. It just made me realize like, wow, maybe I'm a very poor communicator. Like, I walked away feeling kind of convicted.
I definitely think you're definitely better than I am at it. But one of the things we try to teach in like sales calls for clients is like the 7 whys. And if you like find yourself talking more, like I'm over communicating, like I speak more than I listen. Like you can ask Paula, not good at relationships and listening. And it's almost sometimes I feel like it's just like I'm not caring enough to inquire more.
Yeah.
But a great skill that you can do is basically just ask why 7 times in a row. So you validate, ask why. Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah.
Tell me why you think that is. Why do you want to lose 20 pounds?
I think those extra words that you're adding there though are essential, because I've actually heard somebody bring up this concept of 7 whys before, and it kind of left me feeling like what they were trying to encourage me to do is just be like, why? Well, why? Well, why? But like the nuance words, the tell me why you feel like that, or tell me, whatever. Just saying it that way, it doesn't feel like they're getting pelted with whys, or just fire hose down with why.
Well, it makes it to where you're trying to dig deeper. Really, you're just pulling back the layer of the onion.
Yeah.
Right. So like, tell me more about why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Why do you think your parents, is it maybe because they struggle with that, or like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Just prompt them.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just asking them to pull back. And typically whenever you're talking something about somebody trying to achieve a goal by 7, they're emotional.
Yeah.
Because we're getting down to the root cause. It's not that you want to lose 20 pounds. It's that you hate what you see in the mirror because you got picked on as a child and because your parents called you fat when you were young.
Yeah.
But like, we can go all the way down the list.
That's really
we just
why.
got to ask why.
Yeah.
But that's how we fix and solve like mental health problems and like limiting beliefs. Like really, it's why comes to like anything.
I know.
Because it set up the structure of like who we are as humans today.
Yeah.
And depending on where we go is depending on like why we can get down to these certain reasons.
Yeah.
And when you start asking yourself those questions, that's when you really start to figure out who you are. Not like, why did this happen to me?
No.
But like, why do I feel this way?
Why do I feel this way about what happened? Yeah. Oh, that's good. Do you do that stuff? Like, do you journal or do you like?
So I wouldn't say I'm a great journaler.
Yeah.
I have. But typically for me, it's like speaking it out loud more so than writing.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm like not the best with like words and grammar, and I feel like I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to those type of things. So for me, writing it takes much more energy than actually the process of just saying things out loud.
Yeah.
So I was able to process a lot of things by just journaling, by speaking it into my phone, but like really digging deep versus just being surface level. But I've done a lot of breath work. Especially like post-divorce is really when it all started for me.
Yeah.
And I said this the other day, like 3 years is a really long time. And so who I am today versus who I was 3 years ago.
Well, you got married? You got divorced 3 years ago?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
But that doesn't, you saying you're in the midst of your point of this is a really long time. Me, I'm like, man, that's fast.
Right. But where were you at 3 years ago?
Yeah, I was, here. Yeah. I was here.
Just kickstarting this?
No, not even. I was still still at First Form. Yeah.
Totally different job. It seems like a decade ago.
Yeah, different friends,
but it wasn't that long ago. But at the same time, 3 years is a really long time.
It's a long time, yeah.
And so for me, like my personal development from like mental health, like financial health, where I've lived, right? Like moving back to Dallas, different businesses, like 3 years is a long time. Yeah. And when you really want to work on something, you ask those why questions, you can change to a whole new person.
You can literally become somebody completely different. Yeah.
I remember I lived in a 4-year time frame. I lived in 4 different states.
Wow, that's crazy. The cumulative effect of just like a routine can completely change not only you, but the circumstances of your life over 3 years. Like you can go from being poor to making money. You can go from being, not confident to being confident. You can go from being insecure to being secure, finding out who you are, having an identity, not having an identity. 3 years is a long time when you put it like that. So I feel like my 180 only took place in like a year and a half, maybe, if that. And like completely different person,
When you look at it from this standpoint, though, routine's also a really scary word. Because if you have the same routine every single day,
nothing's
3
changed.
years flies by.
Yeah, it does.
Because, for example, I sit at my desk and like whenever you get up and go, man, the day just flew by. Your life's passing you by. But when you get up from your desk and you go do that 15-minute this, or you go take that walk, or the people that go work out in the middle of the day, their days become much longer. So think about it like this. We've been going at this for however long, let's say 15 minutes. Sit in cold water for 15 minutes and tell me how long that 15 minutes actually feels. Yeah. Like 3 minutes in a cold plunge is a long time. But 3 minutes in a sauna just goes right by. 3 minutes just walking just happens. 3 minutes on your mom on the phone, just like look up and it's 30. So when you like have to be present during those moments and try to, with that routine, you got to put things into place that make you present,
that bring you back
to reality instead of just like in the zone. Even though in the zone is where things are produced. But produced for what?
Right. You told me recently that this is like a season. This is something that you're thinking a lot about in this season of life. How old are you?
I just turned 35 last week.
35. Man, you're still spring chicken, man.
3 years is a long time.
3 years is that's right. Okay, so you were just telling me that this is something that you're thinking about a lot. Like, how can I? And I should preface this with that I know you as, and I don't mean this in an insult, but I know you as a very money motivated, high driven, high ambition, workaholic, pretty much. And I don't know you. I'm not with you every day. I don't spend a lot of time with you. But from where I sit, that's the that's the image of Mike in my head. Is like, okay, Mike's a killer. I mean, obviously there's all the respect, you know,
sure.
But like in a very matter of fact way, I'm like, he's very money motivated. He's focused on work all the time. I would imagine that you spend most of your day, every day working. I would imagine that when you go on vacation, you work, you at least check some emails or do something. You don't just shut the thing. Yeah. So that's me. And so for you to bring this up to me recently and be like, man, I just want to like enjoy it a little bit more. I'm like, what? Oh yeah. I like this, Mike.
Yeah. So I just got back from Banff, right?
Yeah. How was it, by the way?
Incredible bucket list. Like, you got to go. Typically when you go on vacation to a place, it's like, yeah, we're going to like this mountain.
Yeah.
In Banff, it's like you drive an hour, 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like just different mountain ranges over and over and over.
Wow.
We saw like a herd of elk. It was awesome.
Yeah.
The water is incredible. Definitely worth going. Gotta go. We stayed in Canmore, which was a pretty cool little town outside of Banff.
Yeah.
But on that vacation, I didn't really do much work. I didn't even open my laptop once. Of course, I brought it with me. I didn't open it. Yeah. And I'll be honest, like, I got a great team that's able to supply that. But here's the funny piece about that. We've been able to create such a great system that my partner Baker was in 30A in Florida, vacationing with him and his wife and another couple. My customer service, funnel builder, client success manager, like our all around go-to girl, she was in Costa Rica
on vacation.
Well, partially, but also working.
Yeah.
And then I'm in Banff. So like our top 3 people, like 2 of them are out of the country, and we just all worked.
Yeah.
Which like has never happened before by any means, but just putting good systems into place. But at the same time, like I need to be able to like take a step back because like I am 35, like I'm halfway, right? Yeah. Knock on wood. And I'd be super happy with halfway at 35.
Stop it. Halfway? What are you talking about?
Well, it's definitely not going to be a third. I know that, but I stressed way too much prior to being 35.
Yeah.
But I think for myself at this point, it's what do I enjoy doing? I love to work.
Yeah.
I love like making money, not so much spending it, right? But I love building the thing that makes it.
Yeah.
It's not like making the sale. It's making the system, or it's making the thing that people want that helps them. I just get paid for it at the same time.
Yeah.
And the more efficient I can build it, that's sexy to me.
Yeah.
And so it's really it's not the finished product of like what you built with the Legos.
Yeah.
It's here's all the pieces, but you got no instructions.
And figuring out.
Now build it.
Yeah.
And that's the cool piece, because you can make it look like this or you can make it look like that. And both can be efficient, but some's going to be better than others. And you'll be like, oh, no, we need to tear that down and put that on this side of the house.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, that's the fun part, is like the building of it.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in the zone, like, I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
Like I'll turn down golf. And then some days I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to go golf.
Yeah. But it sounds like, at least, you know, again, with the tone with which you brought up, you know, sort of like even just asking yourself the rhetorical question, like what am I doing all this for? It sounds like you've had at least one, you know, or a few days where you'd be like, man, like, is my life passing me by? Like, have you had was there like a moment, or is that just an ongoing conversation with Paula?
It's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
With yourself, usually.
Yeah.
Because some days you're doing stuff that you don't want to do, that you don't like. And you're like,
why am I doing this?
Just be doing something else right now. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, so Mike, you can do anything you want to do tomorrow. What do you want to do? And I'm like,
work. Yo, I can relate to this so hard. So what I, you know, and I think this is what I said to you too, when you brought it up to me before, which was like, I struggle with this. It's very relatable to me. I've been characterized as a workaholic before. At one point, I probably wore that as like a badge of honor, like
totally.
You know what I mean?
Like I still got my suit.
And I don't much anymore, but What I do feel very strongly about though is I'm trying to build a life that I don't feel like I need a break from. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like I feel so strongly about that. Like
you might as well get a 9 to 5 with less stress at that point.
Exactly. Well, also like I just can't even if I had a 9 to 5, like I did have a 9 to 5, and I still even then I was a workaholic. I loved it. I worked really hard. I spent most of my time working. And if you ask me what I want to do tomorrow, I would tell you work. And so I just can't understand how in a world that we're very fortunate to live in the United States where you can really just do anything you want, that people just settle and then they live this life where they're like looking forward to the weekend. Like they hate going to work and they're looking forward to Friday because they just get a break, or Saturday. They just and it's like, I never want to be looking forward to Friday, you know what I mean? Like if I ever catch myself being like, man, I just can't wait till Saturday, so I can just sit and vegetate all day. That doesn't sound like it to me, because it's what led up to you wanting to just vegetate. Like that's the thing you need to be addressing, not just like taking the break. So I struggle. I bring all this up to say, I really struggle with myself because, like you, I'm having this ongoing conversation of like, what's a healthy balance of work and personal life and all this stuff. But then again, like I love working. I worked really hard to build a work avenue that I like doing, and that I don't feel like I need a break from. So now it's just like, okay, you can work tomorrow and you would enjoy it if you did, but are there other areas in your life that you should be investing some time? And like, that's more so to the primary motivation for me now behind trying to figure out this question that everybody needs to figure out, which is like, what's a good balance? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think a lot of people, I want to say like 9 to 5 or normal people, I think sometimes struggle with is not liking a current situation, but not doing anything to fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's such a ubiquitous problem. It drives me crazy.
Across the board, right? We can talk about overweight. We can talk about finances. We can talk about job.
Yeah.
And the advice I gave to, and I went and spoke 2 weeks ago was, you can't wait for change to happen, or you're going to be forced to make a bad decision because you have no time.
Yeah.
So for example, like if you don't like your job, you should actively be searching for a new one. Otherwise, you're going to perform poorly. You're going to get fired. You're going to have to take the next thing that's available, which is going to be equally, if not worse, than the job you're currently in.
Yeah.
So like we have to actively make those changes. It's like people getting in shape after they break up. It's like, well, if you were in shape, you probably would never broke up.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're a different person. You have more ambition. You're like cleaning up after yourself. You're not a slob, like all those things. So it's like, we need to fix the situation versus waiting for it to slap us in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot about like, what's normal? Like, what does it mean to be normal?
It's a great question.
I always say that. What does it mean to be normal? And it's like,
well, I can tell you now, defined as normal is being overweight and lazy.
Overweight, unhealthy, poor, emotionally unsupported, isolated, probably a mental health disorder, at least something moderate like anxiety or depression. Like this is all normal. Living paycheck to paycheck. And so it's just like, man, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like, but I think it's the alarming, sort of reality is that everybody, none of those people want those things. That's the alarming reality, is just what you're saying. None of them want that, but they wake up and they don't do anything to fix it. They don't do anything to change it. It's interesting because I'm a recovering addict. I've been addicted to many things. I've abused many things. And it's kind of like akin to that, where like, that like you shouldn't do that drug. Like, you shouldn't be taking those pills, but you just take them anyway. And you just, and I think with addicts anyway, you imagine that the point of no return is so much closer than it actually is. Like, in fact, I would say the point of no return is when you die, right? But like, you think like, man, I'm too far gone, and you kind of like give up on yourself. So maybe people feel that way. And then you keep using the drug, right? So maybe people feel that way with their finances. Maybe people feel that way with their drugs. But it's still mind blowing to me as as somebody who knows that you can turn it around. Like if you're 100 pounds overweight, I know you can lose 100 pounds. I've seen many people do it. If you're broke, I know you can make money. I've seen many people go from broke to rich. Like, so it's crazy to me to see people sit there and keep choosing a process that is producing an outcome that they don't want, and then complain about the outcome. They complain about it.
I really struggle. Like, how do I say this? I struggle with empathy for that.
I know you do. Why?
Because I think that it's just a choice.
It is a choice.
And so
we know it is.
Right. Well, so do they. So does everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Like, for example, it's like, well, I'm addicted to XYZ, right? Say food, for example. Well, I like cookies too.
You do.
I can house some cookies. Yeah. However, I'm also smart enough to know that if I purchase them, I'm going to eat them. So don't purchase them.
Yeah.
So, and again, even then, it's still just a choice on my end.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, and I had this conversation with Candace and Paula on a podcast we did one time.
Got it.
And she was like, well, you can't just have people like you're struggling emotionally eating. I'm like, are they making a conscious decision to put the food in their mouth, chew it and swallow, and then repeat 37 times in a row?
Yeah.
Like the answer is yes. So, and she was like, so you just say that somebody can just quit smoking by just saying stop? I go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called cold turkey. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like I did Zen for 2 years and I just like, I'm done. Just stopped. It's just a choice.
It is.
You can either choose to cave and here's the thing. This is something that I've really kind of stepped into personally. It's either you A, don't want to do that thing, or B, become the person that doesn't want to do that thing.
I know. That's so good. What do you mean by that? Yeah.
The great example here, always trying to be a better partner, right? Because I don't feel like I'm very good at it sometimes.
Yeah.
So either I don't want my wife to be angry at me, so I'm going to buy flowers. Or I'm going to do these things to make me be good. Or you just be the loving husband that just does those things.
Mm-hmm. Be the type of husband that buys flowers for his wife on his way home.
Right. Don't buy the flowers so that she doesn't get angry.
Yeah.
But buy them because that's the husband you want to be.
Yeah.
Right. You're not buying them to fulfill a need. You're buying them because you want to serve.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you don't want to be the guy that, I don't want to be the person that's overweight. So like, I don't want to be the person that has a craving for Cheez-Its. And I don't want to be a person that's like, doesn't go to the gym. It's like, I want to be a fit individual. I want to be a healthy father. I want to be a healthy spouse.
Yeah.
And that person just does all those other things. So like, there is no choice of like, it's like, don't focus on what you don't want to be. Focus on who it is you want to become. And then you don't have to worry about the negative thoughts of those things.
Yeah. Or don't focus on resisting the urge or having the
discipline.
There is
no more urge.
Or having the discipline. Exactly. There is no more urge when you're striving to become a different type of.
Yeah.
This is
when you want to be a great husband, you don't think about other women.
Yeah.
But when you say, I don't want to be a cheating husband, now you're constantly thinking about being a cheating husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be a great husband. Cheating is not even on the mind. It's not even on the table.
I think sometimes people struggle with this. I know I did, because like you say, okay, so I know sometimes I'm not very good. I think I'm not very good at being a partner, right? So like in your head, let's say you may label yourself as a bad partner. And so this is something that you're like sort of putting on yourself. I'm a bad partner. And so sometimes we self-sabotage in whatever it is, because we've already sort of convicted ourselves that you're a bad partner. You're this. I did this for a long time. And I used to sabotage relationships, not intimate relationships, but like people who cared about me, teachers, coaches, things like that, because I felt like I didn't deserve to be loved. Like my mom gave me away, and long story. But I'm like, man, I had this thing in my head for years. It was like, man, even my mom would give me away. That means nobody whatever. So that was kind of how I did. And I would sabotage these relationships. And what changed my life was I came up with an image of a man that I wanted to be like, and I just pretended to be like him. So I had to, and I know that we're saying basically the same thing, but it's very different because I wouldn't let myself be him. I wasn't him. It wasn't me. It was some other man. And I just tried to be like him because I didn't think I was good enough to be that person. So it was day by day me trying to just emulate this character that I had created. And I'm sharing this because it completely changed my life. It completely changed my life. And it took the pressure off me from being him. Like if I messed up, if I fell short, the goal every day was just to be as much like this guy as possible. And for me anyway, just because I had so much internal sort of problems, like just emotional issues that I hadn't worked through at the time, I wouldn't let myself be the standard. And so letting it be an imaginary character or even another person might be something that helps other people out there. If you struggle with this, or if you're just not the person that you're proud of, if you're not a person you're proud of, look at somebody that you really look up to and be like, how do I be more like that person? And challenge yourself, because that was really it. I said, well, the way I used to articulate it to myself is like, what would the absolute best version of yourself look like? And that's what I did. I journaled on that for like months, literally months. I just kept making like tinkering with this image and I got down to the nitty gritty. Like, what would people say about him? What kind of language does he use? What kind of music does he listen to? All this stuff. I got so detail oriented. And then I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to be like that guy today. I'm gonna try to be like that guy.
That reminds me of?
What
would Jesus do?
Well, amen. Amen.
So it's a constant reminder of like, being that individual that you want to be, right? Knowing that like perfection's not a thing. Mm-hmm. Right. I think another big piece though is letting down worry.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're going to slip. You're going to fall. Like, I know I'm going to make mistakes. Right. And it's just like trying to just catch the window of the time I made the mistake to the time I recognize it. Like that's progression.
Yeah.
It's not never messing up again. It's going, I make a mistake. I realize it 2 days later. And then I make a mistake. I realize it 1 day later.
Yeah.
And then I make a mistake. I realize it 2 hours later. And then it's 2 minutes later. And then it's like, before I even say it.
A minute before. Or a second before.
And then prior to even saying it, it's like, now we realize the trigger. Mm-hmm. We understand the awareness. And then once you know the awareness, then it's all on you.
Yeah.
Then it's a conscious decision to make a poor choice. So when you know sugar's bad, now it's a poor, now you're making the decision, right? But they come into smoking, like ignorance is bliss.
Oh yeah.
But once the ignorance is gone,
I know.
What else is there?
I know.
Like, you're just now making poor decisions.
Yeah.
Whether that's relationships or food or health or job, like whatever, money, doesn't matter. So
some people are going to be mad about this, but I was walking through the airport with Grace one time and I saw this couple, each of them was at least 100 pounds overweight, and they have these big ice cream cones and they're just like mowing down. And, I go through seasons. Like I'm generally very disciplined about what I eat. I just know too much. It's very hard for me to just take it overboard because I just know what I'm doing. And but sometimes when I'm bad, I'm bad. When I'm off, I'm off. I'll take a week sometimes and just like eat like garbage.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was in a season where I was sticking to my diet, and I said to Grace, "Man, sometimes I wish I didn't know so much about nutrition. Like, those two people are sitting right there, both of them 100, 150 pounds overweight, happy as a pig in shit, eating that ice cream right now. Mm-hmm. Not a care in the world, I said, man, I envy those people. And she's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm like, no, I don't. You're right.
My biggest piece about any of it is like, listen, I want you to like live the life you want to live.
Yeah.
You just can't complain about the choices you make.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if that's like you work your ass off and then you complain about having no time for your kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's a choice, brother.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
Don't complain about being overweight.
Yes.
Don't complain about being a workaholic.
Don't complain about any of the outcomes that you produced. What is that saying? There's a very popular saying, oh, don't complain about the result you didn't get from the work you didn't do. That's a very popular saying, but what you're saying is even more powerful, which is like, hey, don't complain about a result that you produced. What were you when you were speaking a second ago?
Well, you just can't complain about your choices. Period. Like if you choose to make those choices over and over and over,
yes,
don't complain about it. Like if you want to be 100 pounds overweight and eat ice cream every day, like
cool, but don't complain about it.
I envy it to some degree.
Yeah, I do too.
But don't envy me at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too.
You really can't.
No pun intended, but this is the reality. Like I can't complain about working too much when it's a conscious choice to get up every day at 4:30.
Yep.
Right? Now, but also means that at the same time, like I get to like reap those rewards of that work you're putting in.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like whether that's like, so like I don't care about my health or image to some degree, and like food's more important. I get to enjoy that to the level that I want to enjoy it. Like happy for it. Just don't complain about it on the other end and don't ask for a handout in return.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Speaking of handouts, it's so funny. I let somebody rent the space yesterday for an event. I don't know what kind of event it was, but the guy that showed up was like the husband of the woman who was running the event. And so it was just me and him in the beginning. And he's like, man, and I just was, when I'm working, I just don't want to talk. Like sometimes I don't want to talk, and I didn't want to talk. I'm trying to like clean the space and get it ready for him. And he's sitting there trying to chat me up. And so when he first got there, he was like kind of, small talk. And I could tell that he wanted to say something to me, but he just wouldn't say it. He was like, man, you're pretty young for running a business. You don't even look old enough to own this place. I was expecting you to be older is what he said. But then he was like, man, I saw some of the stuff they said about you on Reddit, and he like kind of brought this up. And it was funny. And long story short, the guy pretty much he told his wife, hey, we're using this space because of some of the stuff that I said or they said about me on Reddit. But we got talking about, conservatives and liberals and just sort of this really progressive ideology and just how backward it is. And apparently this guy has he has six siblings. The oldest three are very conservative. All three of them own businesses and they're moderately successful.
Makes sense.
I know, it's sad that it makes sense. The youngest three there's a 12-year gap, and then there's three more.
Different generations. And so the youngest three are all very progressive, very, and they want their parents to pay for college. The oldest three didn't go to college. They want their parents to pay for college. And now they went to college. They signed up for the loans. They're advocating for the debt, whatever. Waived, yeah,
like save me from this bad decision that I made. And then he was talking about his sister who is all about, abortion. And her big thing is she thinks the government should pay for abortions too. And he was just like saying, what is it with these people wanting all these handouts? Both of these things that she's apparently very gung-ho about are save me from this very poor decision that I made, and pay for it with other people's money. But anyway, I had been thinking about that. And you said handouts. It just sent me off on a squirrel mission.
So I want to point something out that you said that I think is really important for those that are, let's say, like on the fence of like what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
You said that the guy wanted to use your space because of the things that other people had said about you,
mm-hmm.
which means because you stood for something, he wanted to stand with you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people struggle with standing for something. And from a long time, I would say myself included, I'm not very as outspoken as other people that I know. However, the more that I realize like, this is me versus like, I don't want to offend anybody, but like, this is just who I am. More people will stand with you because either you give them the courage to do so.
Yeah.
Or they just want to support like-minded individuals.
Mm-hmm. I think at our core, a lot of us are mindful consumers. You just have to give people enough information to make a decision. Because otherwise, in the absence of knowing what you stand for, who you are, what you believe, or any other things that you guys might have in common, that might just win you over or win them over, you know, a lot of times they just make the decision that the most people are making. Like if you go to a shoe store and you know nothing about any of the companies, you know that everybody wears Nikes, right? So like maybe you just end up getting a pair of Nikes because everybody has it. That's how humans think. But if you give them more information, they start to consciously or unconsciously make the decision with that information in mind. But something that I want to sort of add on to what you just said is something that I say to myself often is nobody likes to go first. Nobody likes to go alone. Mm-hmm. For me, I remind myself that tremendous opportunities and responsibilities are bestowed upon the people who are consistently willing to go first or go alone if they have to. And so I try to be the first a lot of times, especially when I feel like it's needed. But what I've found is through this over and over and over again of just like stepping out into the wilderness by myself, seemingly by myself sometimes, is a lot, almost every time. You imagine in this moment where like circumstance is challenging you to be courageous and to, you know, step into some discomfort, to stand for something. You imagine that if you do this, you're going to be by yourself. But like what you don't know is almost every time everybody else in the room is thinking the same thing. They just don't have the courage to be the first or to go alone if they have to. Mm-hmm. And so when you go, you go, and sometimes you have to stand alone. That's fine. But most of the time, as soon as you step out there, there's like, you know, 50% of the room steps out behind you because they were thinking the same thing. They just needed you to do that. So
I forget what it's called, but like I basically relate to like a wedding dance. Mm-hmm. 2 people go and you're like, oh, I'm not going out there yet. And then more people go. And then within like 3 or 4 more movements, like 75% of the room's dancing. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody has to break the ice. Somebody has to start it.
Somebody does.
It just takes over, right?
Yeah.
But it's those that do take the courage to make that first step. I would say oftentimes I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Not everybody does it. I mean, it takes
but I've always like, I would say my raising, how I was raised, the fear of making the wrong decision because of the words in which I would receive stopped me from taking the first step.
Yeah.
Like I really need to be sure about that step.
Right.
Or like, what am I getting in return? Now, just to be clear, like this doesn't come to like an abuse from a
No, I would like to hear how you came up. I'd like to hear, like, what do you mean by that? Yeah.
Sure. So born and raised Alabama, 23 years, worked with my dad. Pretty much anytime he said I was.
You worked with him?
Yeah. So he owned an excavation company. So I can basically run any type of heavy equipment.
Really?
Track hoe, backhoe, skid steer, anything to do with levers, and it's yellow, I can run it.
Yeah.
Basically build pads and dirt work for houses and things like that. Roads.
Yeah. He owned his own company?
Residential. Yeah, he owned his own company.
Got it.
Like, and I started as young as like getting paid $1 a job site, and we do 6 in a 12-hour day.
$1 a job site?
Yeah, so I'm like 6 years old out here with him.
And he's banking.
Well, that's sure, but you got a 6-year-old with you. He's babysitting is what he's doing.
Yeah.
All right. But he taught me the value of $1 in hard work. Mm-hmm. And he also taught me how to save money. And I think this is why I'm, as you worded it, like money hungry.
You're, money motivated.
So, money motivated. Yeah. We're going to call it the same thing. So, which I'm not going to deny. I am, but not from a greed standpoint, but from a
that's why I don't use the word. I don't use the word hungry because I think money motivated is different. Motivated means you take it into consideration when you're making decisions. Like hungry is like greedy in my head. Anyway,
fair enough.
Yeah.
So basically, did that. My 2 other brothers got like normal jobs as soon as they could. I feel like that's so they didn't have to work for dad.
Yeah.
But as the middle child, the one that was, I would say, produced the biggest skill set in the job of running the equipment, understanding, what we're trying to accomplish here, I just kind of gravitated towards it. Mm-hmm. And so I remember like 16 going out, driving a piece of equipment to a job site and doing it myself, making like $12 an hour in 2006.
Yeah.
Which minimum wage at that time was like $6.50 or something like that. Yeah. So I was like making double the amount of money as somebody that's been working at Aeropostale or whatever. So I've never actually had a retail job. I've never worked in a restaurant.
Wow.
I've worked for another company for 2.5 years and I'm 35 years old.
Wow.
And that was a startup company. It's like I've only been on my own.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what it's like to like have a 9 to 5 other than that one job at a startup, which is like working at First Form, which is not a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So essentially it would be like my dad grew up like really, really, really bad. Like
what do you mean?
We call the other side of the tracks.
Got it.
So we're like extreme verbal abuse, actual abuse. Father was a raging alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Just like really bad. So bad. Like one of the things he asked his mother when he was like 55 was like, why'd you beat me so much?
Really?
She's like, that's just the way it was.
Wow.
Right. So like, I don't know anything about dad's childhood because he doesn't talk about it because it's just pain.
Yeah.
So for us, he wanted us to basically, he couldn't sit still, which turns you into a workaholic because you can't sit with your thoughts.
Yeah.
So
that's
now
what
he's
people
older,
escaping memories.
Now he's struggling a little bit to some degree. He's gotten kind of over it and worked through a lot of it. And I've kind of helped him do that. But like, you got to keep moving. Like idle hands just get the mind working. He's like, I got nothing I want to think about.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep doing it. And I remember it was like, what are we going to do today? Are we done with this? And he's like, there's always something to do. And I was like, oh, I get it now. I understand.
That's crazy.
There's no work day.
Yeah.
It's just what can we get done today?
Yeah.
And that's how this is turned into a workaholic because it's like, I completed the task. That doesn't mean the job's done. It just means we get to start the next thing.
It just means we get to move on to the next task.
Which is what growing is, right?
Yeah.
It's like how fast can you do as many tasks as possible?
Yeah.
That's growth. 9 to 5 is how do I do the least amount of work in the longest amount of time so I can show that I'm being productive, but not actually trying to hit my quota so I don't have to do more next month because I did good this month.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
Completely different mindsets, right? So it was him forcing me to try to have perfection and my way, the highway type of mentality. But it was only out of wanting the best for me, not because he didn't like me, but actually because he loved me so much. He just wanted me to be the absolute best.
Yeah.
And be in a situation that he like would just be 10 times better than his.
Yeah.
And it just was lack of having a father figure, like a real one in his life. So he's like doing the best he can with what he's got.
Yeah.
And so basically just teaching it through work ethic. But at the same time, like it wasn't taken advantage of. Like I was paid. Like, and also he said, hey, for every dollar you save, his favorite phrase to use is save it for a rainy day. And so every dollar that I would save in the bank and put in the bank account that I couldn't touch until I turned 18, he would match. So if I put in $20, he'd put in $20. So every week I would take a part of my paycheck and deposit it. And so by the time I graduated high school, I had like $12,500. How many people listening to this had $12,000 ever in their bank account?
For real.
Right. Sad. And that's no knock. That's just a societal thing.
And
right?
what year was that? That was at a time with 12,000.
That was
actually buy you something.
Yeah, that's half a car. That's half a Civic.
Now you ain't getting nothing for 12,000.
Right. So I was able to just like save. And so it set me up for a really good place. And it always taught me like, so don't spend all your money, Mike. Save it. Of course, no one's matching it. But the concept is safe, which means I enjoyed making it more than I enjoyed spending it. Man,
that's just, that in and of itself is so valuable.
So powerful. Like if you want to set your kid up for success, you have to set him up for success.
Yeah.
Like you have to teach these things into kids.
It's give a man a fish or teach a man to fish.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Because when my dad was 17, he had to come home, give his money to his parents to help pay for his little brother's food.
Yeah.
Because he had 5 siblings on a single income from the YMCA.
Yeah.
And so from there, it was just like completely different mind shift. And it didn't really make sense to me until I was 18 18, I guess. I was moving to college or when I moved to New York. I can't remember which one. It was either 18 or 23. And he was like, I taught you how to use your hands. So you could always come back and use them if you needed to. He said, but now I want you to use your brain.
Really?
And I was like, what? I don't understand. Like, I thought you wanted me to just like work really, 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 really hard.
Yeah.
And it was like, I do want you to work hard, but also want you to work smart.
Yeah.
And now you always have something to come back to if needed. And so at this point in my life, like, it took me a long time to realize, like, oh, I'm always going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because what he taught you to do, that heavy equipment operating, those guys make $150K.
Sure.
No, but I'm serious.
No, but it's the concept of like, well, look at the last 15 years of me working for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, of course I can go get a job somewhere.
Of course you could, yeah.
I can go to a consulting job for any company that I wanted to some degree, right? It's just how much am I going to negotiate, how much I'm going to get paid.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I know that like the work that I've put in, I'm always going to be okay.
Oh yeah.
And that's really relieving. Here's another piece for you. You'll appreciate this since you've gotten to know me. If I believe that God's going to provide, what do I have to worry about?
Yeah, amen. Man, that's so good.
Why am I stressing? What am I worried about?
Yeah.
If it's going to be there when it's supposed to be there, why am I worried about what time it arrives?
Mm-hmm. It's really crazy. That reminds me of something I had to have a heart-to-heart with myself. Probably a month ago now, honestly, but I always talk about, if you really believe what you say you believe, I should be able to tell. That's like a big thing that I believe as a Christian. If you say that you believe that the Bible is true and it's the word of God, then I should be able to watch you. I should be able to observe you and just know and say, man, that man is a Christian. That woman is a Christian. And worrying is one of those things like that. It's like, you say you believe that God will provide, right? That his plan is good. His plan for your life is good. And that all you need to do is show up and stay connected to him, stay in relationship with him, listen for his direction, his guidance. And so I caught myself like sort of worrying about some things that I didn't have no business worrying about. And I'm always saying that to people. And nobody can check me because if you watch me, you know that I'm a Christian. You know that if you gave me the litmus test that I'm telling you to give, I'd pass the test. But in my head and in my heart, I know, why am I stressing about this? Like, you don't know that I'm stressed about. I know. And I had to tell myself, man, you better check yourself. If you really believe what you say you believe, then chill and just show up tomorrow. That's all you gotta do. Show up tomorrow. I
had a conversation with a guy 2 days ago. He sent me a message. We were going back and forth. So I do a lot of selling through the DMs for my company. And he was like, yeah, like blah, 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 blah. I'm going through this situation. God's kind of put me in a desert right now. I go,
that's interesting.
Did he put you in a desert or did he take you out of one?
Yeah.
He was like, because his life is transitioning.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you're saying it's going where you want it to go. It's just like, you got to go through it to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just, we're talking 40 days, 40 nights here. Like, where we at?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like one of those things to where, and I don't like when people say desert because there is no good, there is no bad, there just is.
Mm-hmm.
We choose as society or individuals what's what. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm sure I'll get like, well, yeah, man, you got some money, like things change. Like, well, what about the times I didn't? What about the time I lived with 10 strangers in Jersey City?
Yeah.
In one of the most crime-ridden cities in the world. Like, where I had to like step over homeless people to walk home every day off the train.
Yeah.
And would like wear a sweatshirt over the tie of where I was doing X, Y, and Z job. Like everybody has like things that they go through, but like either you can choose to say like that was a great experience that I had, or you can choose like that was a terrible time in my life. Like,
yeah,
we get to choose those things. I can talk about how like, I had a divorce and an affair had happened and all this stuff. I can be like, that was a terrible time. Or I can be like, I would not be where I'm at right now if I wasn't so thankful that happened to me.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard place to get to. But man, the peace that I found in the last 90 days of just being like, I'm grateful for every hardship. I'm grateful for those hard conversations my dad gave me. I'm grateful for the tears in which I felt like I wasn't good enough. I'm grateful for all the things that have happened to me. I'm grateful for all the backstabbings that have happened. I'm grateful for all the things that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Grateful for the money lost, grateful for the money, like all the things you got to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Then it makes it to where it's like, what's next? Because I know it's for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
If somebody leaves, it's just so that somebody else can enter.
Yeah.
And that's hard to get to.
Woo, man.
But the truth is that if we believe, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no desert.
Yeah, there's no desert.
It's just the journey.
It's just process. Yeah, that's it.
Right. I'm going to butcher this, but everybody talks about 4:13, Philippians 4:13.
Yeah. What is it?
I can do all things through Christ.
Yeah.
Or who strengthens me.
Yeah.
4:12 is big to me.
What's 4:12 say?
I'm going to butcher it here, but basically it says that whether I'm full, whether I'm empty, I'm content.
Yeah.
And basically what it's saying is that I am content, but not complacent.
Mm-hmm.
And that whatever I have is all I need.
Is enough.
Yeah. Is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can do all things through Christ. But for me, like that really stuck out to me in a devotional I had a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here moving back to Dallas and I'm like, we're talking about what kind of house we want. Like, well, I ain't got the right backsplash in the kitchen. It ain't got the right color on the walls. The backyard's not big enough, or what happened to the pool we wanted? Mm-hmm. I'm like, are we arguing about paint color right now?
Yeah. Yeah, we can paint
when
that.
We used to argue about, was it going to be this much or that much? Like, because $50 is going to really make a difference here.
Could we afford it? Yeah.
And so it's like, at this point, I'm also like, I can live with nothing. I can drive a Corolla every day from 1994 and like, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
I would want something more, but I'm not going to hate my life otherwise.
No.
Because I also know I'm just saving up to get the next thing.
Yep.
Right. So to me, it's just a seasonal thing. And when I say 3 years is a long time,
it's a long time.
Whenever you don't worry, 3 years is a lifetime, man.
Oh, yeah.
A lifetime. Because you like start counting backwards, like where you're at 3 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Talking a decade. Like where were we at a decade ago? And then we go, okay, so I'm 35. Where was that a decade ago? Mm-hmm. Holy cow, where am I going to be at a decade from now?
A decade from now. Yeah, 3 years.
With less worry, less stress, more faith.
Yeah.
Like more provisions provided for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to where the future is going. Not like worried about where it's going.
Yeah, I'm not stressing. You know, another thing, when you brought up the word desert, it reminded me of just something powerful that Pastor Joe shared. You know, a lot of people.
Incredible pastor, by the way. We're really sad that we're moving.
He's incredible. A lot of people, though, will be like, man, I just feel like I'm in a season of waiting, or I feel like God's got me in a desert right now. And he pointed out that like a lot of times people feel like that because they're waiting on God to bless their plan rather than following God's plan, you know, and doing and seeking God's counsel and God's guidance. They're saying, God, this is what I really want, you know, and they're waiting on God to bless their plan. And then not only that, but you feel like you're in a desert, you feel like you're in a season of waiting, or you feel like you're distanced from God, or you can't hear God's voice. And it's probably because God's already told you so much and you haven't listened to any of it. You haven't applied any of it. There's a whole book full of guidance that you've completely disregarded, and you're waiting on God to bless your bank account or bless your relationship or bring you a husband, but you're not showing up in the way that God has commanded you to show up in order to attract the husband that he has for you, you know? So it's so interesting. That perspective was very powerful for me because I feel like at times in my life, not now, but I have been this is my plan. God, I'm faithful, you know, God bless this plan, you know, and it just doesn't work out the way I want it to. And I get disappointed. But it's just because that's not God's plan. I was trying to get God to push my plan through.
No. And I feel like I was just trying to push my plan by myself the whole way.
Amen. Yeah.
Which led to like, well, of course I'm going to worry because it's all on my back. So another thing, like, and I don't know enough about scripture to say like this is right or wrong. However, I find that for myself, my gut, my heart, Like I don't pray for things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't pray to bless this or pray to bless that or like where my future's going. The only thing that I pray for is gratitude on what I have and what I've been given.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the less fortunate. And then whatever plan you have for me, make it where it's just clear.
Yep.
And that allows me between, I think that, and between not worrying and trusting that like everything's going to be okay, I have less clouded thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can actually see what it is I need to see.
Yeah.
Because sometimes so when we focus on all the things we worry about, we're trying to pull doors open, right? And when you stop pulling, they're actually just open.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's like you can see more doors and you can see which ones are open versus you're just, because if your handle's on a door, you only can focus on one door at a time.
You focus on the door your hand's on.
Right. And like maybe that door is not ready to open yet.
Yeah.
And maybe you actually got to go through another door and come through the other side. It's a one-way door.
Well, I know there's a lot of people listening that are going to jump on that. And Grace and I actually have, we disagree on this.
Me and Paula. She goes, you should pray for things you want.
Exactly. And I know because I know who Paula, has sort of been on this journey and she has some influences in her life. And I know one of them, and I've spoken to her already about it. And she disagrees with me wholeheartedly, who is a mature Christian, mature in her faith. And I respect everything she says, but I disagree with her on this. I don't pray for things either. And I feel like it is, it's, what is it? I don't want to say egotistical. But it's like, it's almost like implying like, what's best for yourself or for the person you're praying for, it's asking God for a thing. You might be asking him for something that doesn't even hold, that's only a portion, or it's not even nearly as good as what he has for you. You're asking for something that's less than what you could have if you would just say, give me what you have. And also, you don't know everything behind every story. And so like, even for other people, like I struggle to pray for them because it's like, I know God is good. I know God knows all, hears all, sees all, and I know he's just. And so I got to trust that he's going to do, I have faith. I have so much faith that he's going to do exactly what he has for this person. And so who am I to ask for some specific outcome?
What I want's irrelevant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What I want is irrelevant. And so I think it's an act of faith to reserve your requests and instead to say, God, give them what you have for them, or give me what you have for me. And then the thing I will pray for people, though, the only thing I pray for people is, God, I pray that you increase their faith. Like that's it. If you just, that's the only thing I'll ask them to do that. Increase their faith, because everything else will change if that happens. Everything will change in a positive way if that happens. Increase their faith. And one other thing that I will say, just related to what you just said, is gratitude. You were talking about gratitude. You said the only thing I pray is gratitude, and someone else. For years, that's the only thing that I would do, and I think that it is undoubtedly why and how you've come to really accept the bad things that you've gone through. Like I think, in fact, I would say that most of the most successful people I know, when they talk about the worst thing that ever happened to them, it's simultaneously the best thing that's ever happened to them. They have this perspective of like, man, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but man, I don't know who I'd be without it, and I think you can only get there through a place of gratitude, whether you've been molested, whether you've been, abused, whether you've been whatever, your parents got divorced when you were like, whatever you've been through and that thing that tore you up, if you can figure out, if you can thank God for that every day until you actually feel grateful for it, it'll change everything. It'll change everything, because then I think then and only then can you get to a place of faith that you're talking about, where you now have no worry. You don't feel like you're in a desert. It's not a desert. It's a process. And God's taking people out of my life. Your boyfriend or girlfriend leaves you. Well, if you're somebody who has done that work, and you have that disposition of gratitude, you're like, well, I've had really bad things happen to me already. And I was really upset when those things happened, but they ended up being positives for me in the long run. So you have that default disposition where nothing bad can happen to you.
Right.
You can be disappointed from time to time and you can be hurt from time to time, but nothing bad happens to you. Like you said, we're humans. We label those things as good and bad. Because one of my prayers, it's so funny how when you talk to people who come to these conclusions, a lot of times they get there through the same path. But one of my prayers is, God, thank you for all of my experiences, the pleasant and the unpleasant, and for all that they've taught me and for all that they've given me, right? So like I can label them pleasant and unpleasant, but I don't label them good and bad because they were all net good. You know what I mean? Faith is amazing, man.
It's strange.
Earlier you also said you've come to so much peace. You've gotten so much peace in the last 90 days. And I just want to know, like, what have you been doing in the last 90 days that you feel like has brought you to this place of peace?
I would say the first thing was that the first thing? So I'd say I stressed quite a bit up until like June, give or take, with big business stuff and just trying to like figure this out or figure that out or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We went to church one day and the Bible study, like a lot of things were simultaneous. Like one of the conversations we had in like first time Bible study, like, how long have you been a believer? I go, well, I don't know if I am. Ooh. And
that was so powerful. I didn't even realize, that was a pivotal moment in your faith journey.
Yeah. So we went to church. We took the niece and nephew, Paula's niece and nephew, and it was $1 and Cents by Pastor Joe. And it was on tithing. I'm a frugal guy.
Yeah.
I like to make it. I don't like to spend it.
Yeah.
And I sure as hell don't like to give it.
I don't like to give it away.
So I remember standing in the shower. It's like 2 p.m. that Sunday. And I had my arms crossed, looking out, just staring at the wall. And I was like, 10%, huh? And I was like, and I'm in sales, obviously. I'm like, well, if you don't believe in it, you wouldn't pay for it. At least that's how sales works, right? Yeah. I go, put your money where your mouth is. And as soon as I had that thought, I was having like 5 or 6 different conversations with other people, and they all made sense at the same time, instantly. And I couldn't put it together. And it was like this infrastructure of building something inside the company that I'm trying to do. And it was like, God was like, let me show you. And just wiped all the confusion away. And I saw it from like top to bottom of like a very, very successful business model that would take years to develop and understand, but like all the things that led me up to this moment. And it's still a process of implementing. Right? It's no easy feat. I never once thought about the money of it. Again, it's the building of the structure. It's the making sense of all the pieces.
Yeah.
It's not the completion of the project. Yeah. It's not about being first. It's about doing it.
Yeah.
However, the funny thing is, like, we would be the first to complete this module, if you would.
Yeah.
So that was like step one. And then I immediately started tithing.
Wait, yeah, but what? Yeah, you came out the shower.
Came out the shower, went on the porch, talked to Paula. I was like, I think God just spoke to me. I've never said that to her, or ever said that out loud.
Yeah,
or ever said that. Period.
Yeah.
And then like a week or two later, like we're arguing about like, is this 10% gross? Is this 10% net? Like when is this? You know?
Yeah.
And my thing is just like always like, just goes with the heart is. I always go with the heart.
Yeah.
Not my mind. Because your mind's always going to try to like say this or that. Like just go with the heart. Whatever the heart is, that's the right thing to do. Right? Like we can sit here and talk about yoga. Like, well, it's namaste and that's serving of this God or whatever. And I'm like, what's my heart say? Am I stretching or am I worshiping right now?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with what my heart says.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stretch out these really tight hamstrings.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not letting like my mind overcome like my heart says. That's just for me. Right. I always go with what my heart says, because if God's got me to here, I got to trust that the things he's putting in me are correct.
Amen. Yeah.
Right. It's obviously different for everybody. So I think for me, like having that conversation and then kind of just opening up, and then the whole moving process was like, I got to get an office. I got to get a house. I also have other things I need to keep in mind, friends and other colleagues and things as far as like location purposes. And I've got to have all these things lined up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to sell my house, by the way.
Yeah,
and I got to make sure I don't lose too much money because I'm selling it within a year's time of purchasing it, which means a realtor, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, well, if I was going to worry, now would be a good time.
Yeah, now would be a good time to worry. Yeah.
And I just was like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to stress about it.
Yeah, it'll work out.
It'll be fine.
It always does.
So we looked at an office, and it's like a 45 to an hour commute. And I was like, and it's a beautiful office. I'm like, part of me is leaning towards it. And it's like, just don't stress about it. Just keep looking. Don't sign nothing premature. Just keep looking. We find a place, and we find a house, and we think we're going to the house. Doesn't go through. They pick somebody else. Okay. And then we find another house, and then they went with somebody else. And we're like, okay, we're moving in 3 weeks.
We need a house.
We're supposed to.
Yeah.
We'll have to get out because this one's closing because we sold this house. Now it's under contract. Now I've got to find a place to go, plus an office space.
Mm-hmm.
Find an office space before we find the house. The first house we originally found that we like prayed about getting, open back up.
Wow.
So we get it. And is it ideal situation? I'm like, no, it's not the ideal location in which we wanted. However, I think it opened for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
We did pray about it. Just go with it. So that's what we essentially did.
Yeah.
And so now got the house, got an office space, and like house is sold, U-Haul's booked, got people moving on the front end, people moving on the back end. It's like,
it all worked out.
Now I got to pack.
And you didn't stress along the way.
I didn't. Yeah. Paula was a little heated about trying to figure it out, right? But I was like, I think the woman's always going to stress more than the man about some things, right? Especially like, where's the roof going to be? But like, I'm cool with the tent.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'll figure it out. Like, it's my job to figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Man, and it all kind of just like played together. But I think the biggest thing for me too is like over the summer, I also did some breath work with Matt Vincent, which you know. Not religious by any means.
No, Matt's not at all.
Not at all, right? Yeah. However, what Matt is the person that I was. I want you to do what you want to do, man.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to, like, I support you thoroughly, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I love you for it. So we're like opposite ends of the spectrum on a lot of things. However, we have such a mutual respect for each other that like we'll do whatever the other one needs, right? Yeah. So I grew up religious. And I would pray with people like, hey, I want you to believe what it is you believe, and I'll pray with you. Like, I'll hold hands and share this space with you for you to do that. And I'm going to respect what it is you want because I love you, regardless of my beliefs.
Yeah.
But doing breath work, actually, it's dope. I felt like actually God spoke to me during breath work, which is like, most people think that's the last place you're going to find him.
Yeah.
But again, it's not the mind on where you're at, it's where your heart's at.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear and speak to God, and it just so happened to do it in a place that wasn't necessarily religious.
Not very godly place.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and just not it's a demon place, however, it's like, just,
listen, I like that guy a lot too.
Just not a God, it's not a spiritual place in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So then when I went to the event, this is great. You're going to love this. I think I told you about this, Teresa. When I went to the event.
So you guys are in a men's retreat.
We're in a men's retreat. It's not a men's retreat, just a retreat in general. We're in Idaho for people to get through like limiting beliefs and help them overcome. And like we're doing hot and cold therapy, lots of emotion, lots of like self-talk and like journaling, like all the things just take God out of the picture, right? But all the other things essentially associated with it.
Yeah.
So they say 3 things going on about yourself. And I'm one of the last ones to go. And one of the things that first came to mind was, I want to say I was a believer. I also wanted to say that I was selfish. And this is supposed to be 3 things you describe yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two things that came to mind. I'm a believer, a hard worker, and I'm selfish. Like, that's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, when it's my time,
you don't say that.
I don't say that I'm a believer. And I don't say that I'm selfish. I say that I'm hardworking, passionate, and something else. Don't even remember. That's the point. This is the moral of the story.
That's crazy.
Then we broke up into small groups the next day. And one of the girls goes, I wanted to say I was a believer, and I didn't. And I was like, you're a leader here at this event, and you can't even say what you are.
I know. Man.
And it like hit me hard. It's emotional. And then from that moment on, every conversation was just the raw truth of like, well, this is why I feel where I'm at. And like, this is because I think God's done this. And I think this has done that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Paula, and I was like, what a better place to be than a house full of broken people.
Yeah.
Trying to do my best to help them and speak my truth and let God heal whatever he can heal.
Mm-hmm.
Even though maybe they're not there for that or that. But at the same time, I feel like
you were the leader.
Yeah.
A leader.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I find that God finds people.
Amen.
When you're not ready to find God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like when you're in the deepest place. Like, there's a scripture, again, I don't know enough about scripture to dive into it.
You know what? I know you've been reading. I know you've been reading because you keep bringing them up, and I love it.
So, is terrible grammar, terrible literature, terrible memorization, that kind of stuff. But one of the things that was that, what was her name? So was it Joseph and Sarah?
In the Old Testament?
Yeah. And then what was her name? Hey, have our child.
Hagar?
Hagar, yes. So ran into the woods crying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then God essentially found her there.
In the woods, yeah.
When she was not searching for him, but in a desperate place.
She was in pain.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
These people are in pain from childhood traumas, sexual abuse, divorce, like just the gnarliest stories.
And they're off here in the woods in Idaho.
Right. And we're out here just alone trying to like help people.
Yeah.
And so, if like for me, it was a great way to, whether I help them through spirit or not.
Yeah.
But just like holding that space is like, well, I feel like I'm here doing my duty.
Yeah.
As a new Christian, if you would, because I would consider myself to be a new Christian.
And you grew up religious, right?
Yeah. Like, I got baptized when I was 16.
Yeah.
However, getting baptized and being a Christian are not the same thing.
Not the same thing. Even going to church and being a Christian is not the same thing.
Right. Yeah. It's like great examples. Like when I went to the Banff this past weekend with all my friends, and I'm just sitting here just like, they're talking about like work and this and that. I'm like, so what are you worried about? I thought you went to church.
I thought you believed.
I'm like, so what are you worried about?
Man.
If you believe, why don't we believe?
Yeah. Why don't we just do that and not worry?
Right.
Oh.
Because it becomes very simple, right?
It does.
You either eat the muffin or you don't. Like, these are the same things.
I know. It's
black and white. Either you want to lose weight or you don't.
Come on.
You want to quit smoking or you don't.
Either you want to
be a Christian or you don't.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a very black and white person to where like gray ain't serving nobody in any shape, form, or fashion.
It ain't. Oh, man, that's so
and so the more you can get to 100% and less 80-20, right? Or 70-30 or 50-50, like the more results and prosperity you're going to see in your life.
Yeah.
We ain't perfect.
Nope.
By any facet, Christian or fitness.
Yep.
However, wherever you want to be versus fearing like, I don't want to go to hell versus like, I want to go to heaven.
Yeah.
There's a difference in how you live.
There's a big difference.
There's a difference between wanting to be a fit person, not wanting to be overweight.
Yeah.
Right. Man, so I think that's like the concept, the mantra, which I'm kind of stepping into is like, where's the thermostat on where we want to live? Like, do we want to be a lukewarm Christian?
No.
Or do we want to be the one that's like, we can feel the heat coming off? Because I love those people.
Yeah.
Because I go, man, that's such a good person.
Yeah.
But that's also how I describe you.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, man.
You have an energy that just gives off really great vibes. Even when I know that maybe you're not in the best place.
Yeah.
You still show up.
Yeah. Huh.
You still have the energy you still give, even though like I know as a business owner, not every day is a day that you want to smile behind the counter.
Oh, no.
Right?
Hey, man.
Business, you got, I kind of break it into thirds. You got good days, you got neutral days, and you got bad days.
Yeah.
And then it's just, how do you take those bad days and turn those into neutral days? And neutral days are wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Then you get to just celebrate.
Yeah.
But also brings me to the next question, which I actually wanted to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
Do you love to win or hate to lose?
Oh. Well, first of all, thank you. And I really love this perspective. I think this all or nothing tendency is like a personality type. And that's actually why I was like, because I'm definitely that way. Like I just, there's no way I could be a lukewarm Christian. I could either be on the enemy's team or I could be on God's team. But either way, I'm gonna go for real. Either way, I'm going as hard as I possibly can.
Well, the real question is that if you're not on one, are you not automatically on the other?
100%.
Is 80% still on the other team?
That's biblical. I mean, I could point you to in Matthew, Jesus says, if you're not with me, you're against me. He literally says that. Jesus said it. It's Jesus's words. It's not Paul. It's not anybody. It's Jesus saying, if you're not with me, you're against me. So 100%. But and he also says, not everybody who calls me Lord, Lord, will enter the gates of heaven. Only those who do the will of my Father. So just because you say Jesus is king doesn't mean he knows. You keep talking about heart posture. You know, a lot of Christians probably. It's sad, but I would probably say most Christians accept Jesus with their lips, but they don't with their hearts. Just like you could. It's just like what you're explaining. You could tell when somebody really believes what they say they believe. Why are you worrying? Why are you stressed? Why are you? Why are you trying to control things? Why are you cheating on your wife? Why are you getting a divorce? Why are you, whatever. So anyway, do I love to win or hate to lose? Man, that's interesting. Historically, this question is not new to me. My old boss used to talk about this often, and I think historically I hated to lose. I'm a hate to lose person. I think that if I had to pick one, it would be hate to lose. What's interesting though is that I actually, the more I distance myself from competition, the more I like myself. Like the more like I show up as a better version of me when I distance myself from the competitive mindset. And here's the deal. I don't lose much. I'm in any for real in anything. If I don't feel confident that I can win, I don't even play. That's the type of person I am. I'm not gonna participate if I can't win. So I don't lose much. But I went through this phase when I first sort of came to know God years and years ago, where, and some people are not going to like this, but I read all the religious books. I read the Quran, the Old Testament, the New Testament. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read a bunch of Eastern philosophy, some Buddhism stuff, some Hinduism stuff. And one of my favorite books was the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu text, and in there they talk a lot about, in Hinduism, about renunciation, or a detachment from outcomes, desires, things like that. And so I went through this phase of like renunciation. I tried applying that in a lot of different areas of my life, from fasting to getting rid of swearing to I got to the point where I was trying to push it farther and farther and farther. At one point, I renounced my opinion. I was trying to renounce my opinion. So I realized that most of what I say is an opinion. It's not actually true. It's not actually rooted in anything. And I was in a toxic environment. I was in prison. So like, I'm like seeing how unproductive these conversations are between us just sharing our opinions back and forth, you know? And so I stopped doing that. If I developed some mindfulness and I was like, if what I'm saying isn't true, then don't say anything. And so it was cool. I obviously stopped participating in a lot of conversations, and the tone of our conversation, the subject matter of my conversations changed. But I got to a point where I realized that competition brings out the worst in me, because I would like play cards or I'd play basketball or whatever. And I'm playing basketball. Me and you are playing one-on-one. We're friends. And I want to kill you, you know? I want to, and it definitely kicks me into a new gear, which some people could say, you know, you can harness that and it'd be productive. But for me, I'm so all or nothing that like competition can bring out the worst in me. It can make me hate my brother. It can make me hate my friends. It can make me, you know, be very selfish. So I'm actually in a season where like, if it's not like and I know it's so corny and cliche, but like the you versus you, you know, or you versus your best previous attempt or whatever. I'm in a season where that's really the only type of competition that I want. I want to like show up every day. I want to do my best. And like the competition that I participate in is at the end of every day. I'm like, are you proud of how you showed up today? You know, and that's a win. That's a win or loss. That's black and white. It's a win or lose. And so, yeah, I think that's worth sharing, because I think it took a lot for me to like observe, first of all, realize that competition did that, because I'm a lifelong athlete. I love to compete in a lot of things, even after being an athlete, compete in CrossFit, compete at work, compete in sales, compete in everything. Everything is a competition. Me and Grace play something, I'm trying to beat her. You know, if I have kids, we're playing a video game, I'm trying to beat them, you know?
Do you think that that's potentially from, I guess I'm going to be guessing here. I guess is a good word to use, but you think that could be from childhood validation?
It's definitely rooted in something, because I'm more competitive than the average duck, like for real. Like
But you also have, I would say, harder upbringing than the average duck too,
very exactly. So and that's what, yeah, I'm trying to like,
especially with a twin.
Have an identical twin. Exactly. We're both that competitive.
And that could be something like is so simple of like fighting for attention, or like I want to this, or whether it be from a teacher or PE teacher, like it could be anything, right? Yeah. But just curious if you ever explored that. Versus try to like distance yourself from it.
Distance myself. Yeah, that's true. That's
because like I think about it, like you're removing the trigger, but we haven't addressed the trigger.
No, I totally get what you're saying.
Not that you removing the trigger is obviously really important, right? Yeah. But like not buying the Cheez-Its doesn't help the self-control of once I do see them.
1000%. But
because we haven't fixed the trauma.
But a good first step
absolutely
is not buying the Cheez-Its.
Right.
You know if you buy them, you're going to eat them, so you don't buy them, right?
Yeah.
That's a good first step. And then you figure out, you know, why it is that I cannot resist the urge to eat the Cheez-Its. So
for some of those people listening, that means you need to delete Uber Eats.
Delete Uber Eats.
DoorDash.
It may mean like, this is just good. This is good stuff. It may mean that like for a season, you don't drink. You just don't drink. It may mean for a season, you don't look at your numbers at work. Like I used to be in sales. Every morning I'd get there. The first thing I did was check my sales, where my sales ended up the day before, right? Like, cause I was selling stuff on social media. So like we could sell round the clock, 24 hours a day. And I'd check the number first thing in the morning. And I developed a very toxic relationship with a lot of my coworkers, because they were the enemy, but we were on the same team, you know? So I had to stop doing that, you know? So it may mean for a season, my point is, it may mean for a season that you have to go to the extreme. My friend Jack and I, we just agreed, we just shook hands, completely sober for a year. If either one of us breaks the sobriety, $1,000. Okay, cool. Some people may say that's extreme. Some people may say it's not sustainable. It's unnecessary. It's unrealistic, whatever. But before you get to the point where you know why you can't just have one drink, you just say, I'm not going to drink. Like, okay, well, what's the simple solution? You remove the trigger, because you know that you don't have just one drink. You want to have just one drink, but you don't.
Yeah.
So remove the trigger.
Yeah.
Like, so I just think that because we all want the outcome. We all want to be able to, sticking with this example, I want to be able to have one drink. But I can't. I don't know. Like it's, I have one drink and you know what I want to do? I don't actually have a drinking problem at all. I've never really enjoyed drinking very much. But when I have a drink, I want to smoke weed. I have had a weed problem. I haven't figured that out yet. So you know what I do? Don't drink, because I know what I drink. I want to smoke weed. So removing the trigger, I just think that if we normalize this, just normalize that, like it's okay. Like it's okay. And then if you're the friend and your friend says, hey, no, I don't want to, I'm not going to go to ice cream with you guys, because if I do, I'm going to want to eat it. Don't guilt them into going. If your friend says, no, I'm not going to have a beer, or, I'm not drinking.
But just one scoop is not going to hurt you.
It's crazy.
Holidays are coming, man.
What would it look like for us all to like really be there for our people? You know what I mean? Like, and support them in their physical, spiritual, emotional progression. Like, what would that look like? Like, it's so crazy, because I feel very fortunate to have people in my life like you, like these guys, some of the guys that, I am close with. And it's like, I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that most people are surrounded by people who actually influence them more in a negative way than they do a positive way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
You know what I think is funny? That's like, and this ties in that positive and negative. People always will push the negative behavior, but never push the positive.
Never.
Behavior. Like, for example, like one slice isn't going to hurt you. No one's ever going, man, going to the gym today is that's not going to hurt you. Like, you can do it.
You could do it.
No one ever pushes like positivity towards health, always just like negative behavior versus you achieving a goal.
Yeah.
No one's ever been like, man, just working an extra day is not going to hurt you.
Yeah. You could do
They're like, you don't need to work. Come with us.
I know.
But never like positive towards a goal.
I know.
Never positive towards a goal.
And
I have to think like, why is that?
I know. I don't know why. They say misery loves company, but I don't accept that as like an answer. One of my biggest goals in life, once you hear it, it kind of makes sense why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is like I'm trying to build an ecosystem within which it's just the opposite of everything, and the opposite of the culture that we currently live in. Like, people do encourage the positive, discourage the negative. People do hold you accountable. People do, bring you along. They push positive and life-giving content towards you, rather than, hey, look at this, stripper on, OnlyFans or whatever. We're like, we have normal conversations about, how did you serve this week? Who did you serve this week? How was church? How was Bible study? What have you been reading lately? Like or like, even like where we normalize like eating healthy, like being literate, from a nutrition and health standpoint, like just having a baseline knowledge and understanding, normalizing exercising recreationally, like just because like it's good for us. Why not? Like, I'm trying to build, and it looks like it might just end up right here on this block, which is fine. This is fine by me. Like, I see that I could potentially see this turning into like a block that, I don't even leave this block, where it's just, hey, when you come to this block, every business on this block is a positive environment, a positive, and then instilling some of these behaviors and normalizing the way that I think we ought to show up for each other as friends and as neighbors. But yeah, that's like one of my biggest, because when I look at society, it just looks so backwards, like what you're highlighting right now. Like, we literally encourage people to be self-destructive. We literally encourage them to like self-medicate rather than work on their mental health. We literally encourage them to sort of suppress all of their traumas, all their, and just put it to the back of their mind. It's just, it just doesn't work.
Well, I want to jet in for a second, because you said that you're trying.
I am trying.
I want to be very clear. You're doing. Yeah. There is a big difference between trying and doing.
Yeah.
And I'm very adamant about that. And you've done more, I think, for this community than most people, and you haven't had much to do it with. You've bootstrapped this entire thing. Okay. And like, yeah, I've donated some money to help this and that, whatever. I
appreciate that.
However, I also want Jack to get involved on this. I'm going to ask your audience to leave a positive review if this podcast or any podcast that Mark's had has been impactful. Please go please share it. The big ask that he would never do that I'm going to do is, Jack, put a link of some degree where people can donate money for the Bible study so we can continue to grow that. Because as I'm leaving, I'm not going to be able to continue to help as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
So please put a link in there so that if you are interested or if you would like to help this cause of trying to grow this in this rough city of St. Louis.
It's a rough city, brother.
But I mean, think about it, like 200 something people.
I know.
Coming to a Bible study. There ain't 200 people in congregations, dude.
At a coffee shop.
So let's stop the trying aspect and realize that we're doing
something.
And when you show up with that energy, right? And this is just me pouring into you. Like, I'm like super proud of you.
I appreciate it, man.
And everything you've done.
I appreciate it.
And I've tried to do whatever I can to help.
Oh, you've been a blessing.
But I just love like everything you're doing.
I appreciate it.
And like the communication that we have, and like, because the truth is, like, we're not supposed to be friends.
Yeah.
Based on past circumstances, we ain't supposed to be friends. But you're one of the best friends that I've made here.
You didn't even want to like me.
I didn't. Yeah. Not even close.
Mike came into this being like, man, screw this guy.
Yeah. But dude, you've just been like so welcoming.
I appreciate it.
And I know that a lot of people feel that as well. And there's a lot of people that want to help. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that and continue to give back to the community, because there's a lot of ways for you to monetize off this and you don't.
And I don't. Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity for those people to help do that. So please, if you would, it would mean a lot. I know to Mark, but it would also mean a lot to me as well. And all the other members too.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you, I just I started the process of starting a non-for-profit.
We were talking about that.
I haven't told anybody actually, but this is me telling everybody. Yeah. And it's funny because you're talking about this city and it's rough. And so the first name for the non-for-profit that I went through with the paperwork, and it's so funny. It's so funny. I don't even remember what the first name was. All I know is the lawyer came back and he's like, hey, that name's not available. And so I
just means it wasn't meant to be.
I landed on a name that I really like. And the name of the organization is Save St. Louis. And so now I'll be like, hey man, like when we were thinking about like, and it's worth saying, I just think that God just gave me that name. Like I was sitting here deliberating. It's kind of a long story, but like the lawyer's kind of getting frustrated with me because he came back. He said, hey, the name's not available. What's your alternative name option? I'm like, I don't have any. He asked me that on Thursday. So he emailed me on Friday. Hey, do you have a name yet? I emailed him back. Hey, I'll give you a name by end of day Monday. So now I'm sitting in here with Jan and Nolan, and I'm like, man, I got to come up with a name. They're recommending stuff. Grace is recommending stuff. I'm coming up with stuff. Everything we say, I'm just like, man, I just don't love it. But I felt the pressure. I want to give this guy the name. You just follow through on what I said I would do. So I sit down on my computer and I open the email. I'm kind of frustrated. I got these 3 options. I'm about to send them. Hey, option 1, option 2, option 3. And then as soon as I touched the keys, I was like, oh, Save St. Louis. I like that. I said to Nolan Jan, what do you guys think about Save St. Louis? And he started talking about like the merch we could make. Like there's a Bible verse. It's Jesus came to seek and save those who are lost. Right. And I'm like, ooh, I really like that, and then.
Well, I mean, you got saved. Right?
Yeah, I got saved. We're trying to save everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we could save St. Louis in that sense, or save St. Louis in, even just in a surface level sense. So I really like the name, but there will be, for now, people can contribute obviously the same way you did. Just send it, and just trust that contribution is going to be, I'm going to be a good steward of that contribution.
Sure. Which obviously I could know you are, because instantly there were Tons of chairs.
There were 60 more chairs. And truly, dude, people don't know how expensive chairs are. I mean, I don't say this.
It was like $35 a piece when I looked it up. I was like,
yeah,
I got to get more money than I thought.
This man gave me a good amount of money, and it still was only half of an order. But anyway, so you just, if you trust it, I'll be a good steward of it. Send it. But there will soon be an actual 501(c) not-for-profit ministry that people can contribute to, which will be really, 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 really fun and exciting.
I'm excited about that,
dude.
I've actually been thinking,
yeah.
And I don't know if I want to undertake this. Take this on.
Give it to God,
or what it would look like. Yeah. But I would like to try to do something in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, I've made a lot of mistakes over the last year. For real.
Whether it's just like a Bible study of some degree, right?
That'd be amazing.
I got to somebody teach it because I'm not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love to give opinions, so I'd love to talk at it. However, I don't know that I would be
hey, nobody likes to go first.
Sound.
Nobody likes to go first, and nobody likes to go alone. But you know what's crazy, to your point, is, dog, I started this Bible study and I didn't know anything about the Bible. In fact, I started it because I didn't know anything about the Bible. I reached out to Nolan and I said, hey, man, would you host a small Bible study at the coffee shop so that I can learn? And that's what happened. So you should totally do the same thing. Not only that, because I'm sure that there's somebody down there that does feel confident. There will, and I'm putting this out there. I know it's premature, so don't get excited. Don't DM me about this until I tell you again. But we're taking all the Bible studies and making a daily devotional so that we can then distribute digitally or physically. And it'll be sort of like
you should look into seeing if you can get something put on the Bible app.
That'd be cool. I'm sure we will look into it 100%. We're not done with it yet, but
because that's what I do those with some friends where it's like a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day devotional.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's just like an Amazon where you can like upload a book.
Yeah. So
I think like all you gotta do is just create and put it on there.
Yeah.
But that would be awesome. And you want to talk about like a lot of people wanting to get involved with that.
Yeah.
Because as much as we're St. Louis, right? Or you're St. Louis of all this. If you got 200 local people that are interested, that are average age of like 27.
Yeah.
Then what's the actual impact that Mark Joe could make on the world?
Yeah. I think about that a lot. And dude, I struggle so much with that though. The part of it that I struggle with is because I used to do social media pretty rigorously. And I just know how much reach it gives you. I know how good it could be. But I don't know why I just completely lost my appetite for like people ask me, can I live stream the Bible study? Paula asked me that when you guys were on vacation. People ask me, I just have lost my appetite 100% for just trying to maximize the reach. Like I almost like, I don't know how to explain it. But like I was saying,
can I change your perspective?
Yeah, you could try, but I know what you're gonna say. I used to say the same stuff. Like,
and what's that?
Well, it's that all you can do is show up, right? Like I used to say, you can't control the outcome, right? You can't control if your post goes viral, but you can post every day. You know what I mean? In the same way, you can't control how many people your message reaches, but you can put it out there. And so I kind of understand that. I don't know why I'm struggling with it so much. I really am.
So different perspective / guilt. People are asking for the word.
You're going to guilt me? You're going to guilt me?
People are asking for it. And then because it's a slight headache.
Listen, brother, I promise you those people got a Bible. The word is there. The word is there.
Totally. I still have mine from when I was born, but it's been 35 years since it's been used.
Haven't opened it, right? I got a question for you, though. I got another question for you, which is...
Before we dive into that thought, there's somebody that would be very happily to help you assist do that.
What do you mean?
And whether it's some type of stream or this, that, or whatever, but like... Maybe you don't love posting on social media. Great. Just have somebody else do it.
I know.
All right. Because there's going to be a lot of people that want like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people listening to this podcast that are not able to make the Bible study, and they would love to be able to be a part of that, because most people teaching it have white hair and they're like, I can't relate.
Yeah.
I need somebody that's like in it with me. I need somebody also that's single, that struggles with premarital sex.
Yeah.
I need somebody also that has this desire to listen to Drake, but no, they shouldn't. Right? Like, we can dive into real life things.
That's what we do. Yeah.
Because we're the same age. Like, we have the same issues. I have a really hard time relating to my grandpa. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's typically what we see. And I think that's why Pastor Joe is so great and Justin's so great. Is because we're relatable ages to some degree, right? Mm-hmm. So with that being said, like, somebody can help do those things, but I'm going to encourage you to continue, because the more that you can provide, the more that you can give. Yep. And nothing's going to be more rewarding at the end of the day.
Oh yeah. The greatest blessing is giving. It's not receiving. It's not receiving. But giving is definitely the greatest blessing. I'm with you. I've said to myself, as soon as I can, I don't want to put this out there and have somebody like jump out the window. But as soon as I can afford to have somebody with me all the day, all the time, whether it's creating content. I really love the way that Gary Vee creates content. I don't love Gary Vee, but I love the way that Gary Vee creates content, which is he has somebody with him. He is the content. I'm not like this only on podcasts. I'm not like this.
Right.
At the Bible
you got to be the content. Don't create the content. Mm-hmm. Here's the funny thing.
I don't ever want to create content again. I know that. For real. I never want to create content again. I see it and it repulses me online. Like, because I know that world. I know what you did. I know you have a tripod on your counter right now and you have 37 attempts at this video.
Yeah, dude, speaking my language, I know I have to do it.
I don't ever want to create content again. But if I could, because I'm like this all the time, if I can encourage people just by being, which is, you just said that's what I do with you, right? So if I can encourage people just by being, and somebody can do that for me, amen. I'm all for it. I'll post every day. I'll respond to every comment, because that's something I do care about. I know that there's a person on the other end of that comment. They left that comment. I'll give them my time, but I can't give the content my time. I don't know. I'm just struggling with it. So I think, if, God willing, but I think we're not that far away from where I can afford to have somebody, doing content for me, which at that point I'll be all gas, baby. Every platform, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, as long as I don't have to be.
Click the link below. We already talked about
it. That's right. All gas. So my question for you though was, I've reflected a lot. I did a podcast, actually a full podcast solo on my first 6 months as a Christian. Mm-hmm. And I just did some reflecting on like how it's been. And, some of the things that are different. I'm a different person. I maintain that, like, they say that God gives you a new heart with new desires, and and that for me is real, and it's close to home. It gets me emotional. But I'm curious, what are some of the most like impactful, noticeable changes, in your life, in your way of being, thinking, feeling? There's so many ways that God can work in your life, so I don't want to limit it. But like, what are some of the biggest takeaways for you? You're 3 or 4 months in, right?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is like surrender to like all expectations, worry, outcomes, just is.
What do you mean by that? Surrender. Like, so the biggest thing is like you have allowed yourself to surrender.
Yeah. Right. There's like expectations and outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give it up.
But it's the same concept of like, like I probably have the least amount of stress that I've had, and I'm like giving away money to the church. It's like, that makes no sense to me.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right? Like, the more money I have, the less worried I should be.
Yeah.
However, it's like the opposite. Mm-hmm. I also have a very close, powerful friend of mine, just such a man of God, that's one of the reasons too. He's a very successful businessman, and probably one of the most devout Christians I know. And I felt like God brought him into my life because he knew I would listen to him.
Yeah.
Because of the dollars that he makes.
Yeah.
And so like, and I told him this, and he broke down crying. Because like, what better thing can you hear that like God brought me into your life so that you could make me a Christian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
like, as a man of faith, like, is there a bigger purpose to serve?
No.
And so, but it's just funny how like I sit here and go like, things happen for a reason. It's like, well, God's actually just like putting you in positions in certain places to make things happen in your life.
Yeah.
It's like surrendering to this idea. Like, I've always been a person that's like struggled to clap for somebody that's ahead of me. But also realize, like, it's funny enough, Sean Whalen said this. He's like, if you can't clap for the person ahead of you, no one's going to clap for you. Mm-hmm. And so I realized, like, oh, I need to stop the envy. And the funny thing is that my friend and client and colleague and whatever you want to call him is so far ahead of me, like I'll never catch him. Mm-hmm. So there is no envy because it's impossible. Like one in a billion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so outlandish for me to think
that you can clap
the
for
envy's there that I'm like, okay, well,
you just got to respect it.
Yeah. And so it's like kind of like broke down these walls of like greed or expectations and just like a reality of like, this isn't just like a level above you. Like, this is a league above you.
There's levels to this.
Yeah. Like kindergartner playing NFL.
Yeah.
And so I think just like the reality of like expectations, let's get it together, Mike.
Yeah.
Like what you got's good. Because it's sometimes like whenever we see something that's a few steps ahead of us, we're like, run faster. Mm-hmm. But when it's 30 miles, we're like, it ain't worth it. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. And so now it's put things in perspective of like, where are you actually at in life?
Yeah. Don't run faster. Just keep running.
Right. One step after another.
Yeah.
But I would say like full surrender to like where I'm at, what life's brought me, letting go of expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a theme.
Paula wrote me a note on my birthday and she said it to our friends this past weekend. It really meant a lot to me. But this is something I feel like I've always done. But she said that my forgiveness is Christ-like. Mm. And I think a lot of that is actually stemmed from an old saying that I used to say, and I don't say it anymore as of a few months. It's like, when I die, I want everybody to say, that's the nicest guy I know. Mm. I have a tattoo that says, be kind. I got that after when I was going through a divorce. Yeah. Of like, be kind. Even though we don't want to sometimes.
Yeah.
But getting somebody to say, like, that's the nicest guy I know, actually was me saying, I don't want to be mean like my dad.
Yeah.
Right. So the transition of who I actually like afraid of who I'm going to become versus the person I do want to become.
Yeah.
And so like, I want to be a believer. I think I actually told you that. I was like, I've always wanted to be that. I just don't know how to get there. Mm-hmm. And I still feel like I'm in the phase of the want to be, right? Like, I don't feel like I'm just like this 1000%, like every word is like full belief of this. Like, mm-hmm. I'm actively still working on getting in that direction.
Yeah.
As it's always like, I feel like to me, it's hard, right? Because I'm a man of facts or a man of like numbers or like it's gotta. So it's like I'm constantly trying to get there. So it's like letting go of I don't know all the answers, diving into like, well, that's just because the way it is. Just having the faith aspect. So like surrendering to the whys to everything or the end all be alls of things, and just surrendering to the word versus something else.
The world.
The world, right? Or my own thoughts, just going off of my heart.
Yeah. Faith is the irony about faith is that the only thing that can actually get you to like to just complete faith is an act of faith. Like it requires you at some point, like you can have that surface level faith that I think most people that call themselves believers have. You can have that, and it requires you doing something that doesn't make any logical sense. Like for me, it was Grace and I, we lived together for 3 years, and then I moved out, and we stopped having sex, and we made some drastic changes. For some people, it's forgiving somebody where it doesn't make any sense. Like somebody that did something terrible to you, and you forgive them anyway, even though you cannot in your brain rationalize or justify forgiveness in this situation, but you're going to forgive them because that's what God says to do. So that's a very big leap of faith. I didn't understand how abstinence, after we already crossed that bridge. How's abstinence going to help me now for the next several months? You know, like what difference is it going to make? But you do it anyway because that's what the book tells you to do. So when you take a leap of faith like that, that's the only thing, in my opinion, that can fortify your faith to where it's like unshakable, where you just like is a moment or several moments, you doing that over and over again, where you just do something out of pure faith, and there's no logical explanation for why you're doing it other than that it's in the book and that's what it says. That's what God told me to do, or that's what God told me in prayer, or whatever. When you do something like that, that's the irony of faith. Everybody wants that faith that you were talking about, that, you know, when you see somebody and you just, and they're just a God-fearing person, and it's just beautiful. It's amazing to meet people like that, people that you meet and you're just like, man, that's such a good dude right there. Man, that's such a good part. Their faith is just magnetic. It's vibrant. It's perceptible. You can feel it when you're around them. It's amazing. The only way
they don't even have to say anything.
They don't have to say anything.
I just know.
And they make you want to know God. The only way you can get to faith like that is via these leaps of faith. And because otherwise, you know, you're still, what's that scripture? It's, do you know the lean not on your own understanding? It's a proverb. Proverb something is, something about trusting God, but lean not on your own understanding. Until you take big jumps like that, you're still leaning on your own understanding, because the only time you have faith is when it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Mind versus heart.
It's the craziest thing about.
So me and Paula did the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like abstinence.
Did you get that scripture? What is it?
It's Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart.
Yeah. Proverbs 3:5-6 is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Okay. So, yeah, if you only have faith when it makes sense in your mind, that's not faith. That's you leaning on your own understanding. And it's just a big thing. And so you saying you're still trying to get there, you tithing, even though you had to make it make sense in your own mind, but it's a big leap. That's a big leap because you're still giving that money. You don't know where it's going.
Well, the faith piece of it is, as my friend said to me, God can do more 10% than you can do with 100.
Amen. Man, that's so good.
And it's so far so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't even know that it's gone. It's also too, like, I make sure it gets deposited so I don't have to actually question every time I send it.
Oh, direct deposit. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like, just have faith. Like, I'm not going to second guess it every time this comes through. Like, just let it go.
Have you let your new faith like inform your relationship at all?
Yeah.
Because you said earlier that, you know, sometimes you don't feel like you're the best partner, and, you know, I'm just
we definitely actively pray more. She did more, and I would like appease it, like I said. And now it's kind of like more active, like purposefully on my end. And I have like the Bible app on my phone that Paula put on there. Like, now I can just have like quick screen pops up. I've been doing that for, I think my day count is like 22. I missed the day and it was like 31. So I'm like almost like 2 months on it with 1 day missed when I was on vacation of some degree. Yeah. So trying to be part of it and part of a devotional group as well. Yeah. Which has been really cool. One of the things that we did actually was Competitive Christians.
What's that? It's just a group? Got it.
Or it's just a devotional that you can basically watch. Because the people I'm a part of are business owners. Yeah. And so it's got a lot of like, you know, who's leading your company, you or God? You know, are you being competitive Christian? Is that good or bad? Yeah. You know, like, am I comparing myself on social media as being competitive, right? Like, am I thinking less than of myself or less than of this person? Like, it's just like things to think about and how it structures back to scripture. And, so it's been really good to be a part of something like that as well, because like I'm a person that every time I'm a part of a devotional, like I won't miss a day. Yeah. When I'm not in a group, I'm like, yeah, you know, like I guess I'll open it now versus like, oh, I got to get in here and be the first one to message. Yeah. That's funny. You know, because here's the thing for me. If you ask me to be a part of your most sacred thing and I don't show up, what a slap in the face. See, most people don't view things like that. Yeah. But to me, if you're going to invite me into your world of 4 or 5 people, where it's the most intimate setting that you could possibly have, talking about talking about the most intimate thing that you believe in, and I don't show up. Yeah. What does that say about me?
Or what does it say about what you think of them? Yeah. Yeah.
Because like that's like me, like, hey, I'm going to invite like 5 people to be a part of something, and they're just going to show up when they want to show up. Yeah. But I invited you to be a part of my like inner circle, where I'm going to talk about like real stuff, and I'm going to admit to like sin. Yeah. And you're just going to like, when I feel like it,
flippantly show up. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So when I get invited to do something like that, like either I'm like in or I say no.
Yeah. Or I'm like, nah, just give me that commitment. Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a part of that circle that much. Yeah. I don't know you that well, this, that, whatever. Because I've been asked to be a part of things before. I was like, I don't know any of you. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to set that to the side. Right. Versus, but then it's like, what's the first thing I do when I get up? Like, why would I not put this first?
Yeah. This is important.
This is important to me because it's important to you that I was in it.
Because it's very important to them. Yeah.
Right.
Amen. Yeah. Man, that's good.
It should be that way. Good. At least that's how I view it. Right. Because it's like, what are you asking me for 5 days to commit to something? Like, come on. Like, course, I commit to other things worse than that.
Yeah, way worse.
Right. So it's like, what does it take? 15 minutes? Yeah. Tops? I'm just listening. Yeah. I don't even have to read it.
Just plug it in.
It plays to me.
Yeah.
But it's actually been great. It's been really great. And it's actually helped me with business because like me and my partner went to San Diego for a trip that I was speaking at. And I kind of like was like opening up my faith a little bit. And then we're at dinner for the first night. And he was like, you want to pray? I was like, yeah, man, that would be great.
Your partner said that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I was like, you want to lead it? He's like, yeah. Oh. I was like, awesome.
Amen.
It was great. Like, I was like,
that's my next question was going to be, how has it informed like, or influenced?
Well,
like
it's funny because now what it's doing for the company is that we're taking a stand.
Yeah.
In what we believe.
Yeah.
So like we do marketing for like HRT clinics, for example. I will not do any marketing for somebody that's looking to do a sex change.
Yeah.
I'm just standing firm. Like, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to help you transition kids.
Yeah.
Like, don't believe in that. Like, so it's making it to where a company-wide policy is like, this is what we're doing. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like now, like, I have an employee like making like political stand posts. I'm like, so I'm empowering them to believe in and post about what they want to believe in.
Believe in, yeah, amen.
And so it's like as a unity and as a whole, it's like, so I'm actually now not just the boss. I'm now the leader.
Yeah.
And how everybody's run from like the top down. That's like employees to clients.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I get to pick and choose who I want to work with.
It's amazing.
Right. And then now it's like,
but you're also teaching them, without saying that not all money is good money. And then also it's okay. We're here to be, we're here doing the best we can. Mm-hmm. We don't know anything. I don't know anything. I try to be that way. I don't know anything, but I'm doing the best that I can. And if you don't like the way that we do things, it's okay. You can go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
That's it. And
absolutely.
And I don't say that. I say that respectfully, and I say that because, some people will hear that and say, "Oh, well, you're being exclusive. You're being," but I actually, when I have a no mask policy here, people hate it. Oh my gosh, people hate it. Most of our 1-star reviews are because I have a no mask policy. Somebody's walked in here and I'll be like, "Hey, you can't wear that in here." But I don't want to get off on a tangent. But like, I'm just gonna say this: were you gonna drink the coffee with the mask on? Because you were gonna take it off anyway. If you're gonna take it off anyway to drink the coffee,
we already used the coffee filter. We don't need a second.
Exactly. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is these people always get mad at me for the way that I operate my business. And I'm like, there's 6 coffee shops within a half a mile radius right here. Starbucks, Latte Lounge, High Low, Harvey's, us, and then Catalyst. Literally, there's one block in every direction. You can go get coffee at any one of those shops. They'll let you wear your mask in there. Why are you leaving? Why are you trying to hurt my business? Because I operate in a way that you don't agree with. This is the beautiful thing about capitalism, and about freedom and about America. It's like there's an abundance of options for you. And there's undoubtedly one that caters exactly to what you believe. Mm-hmm. So don't get mad at me. Like I try to have this conversation. It's hard because I agree with you 1,000%. I think it's amazing. And I think that if everybody just did that, then the market would naturally sort of balance itself out, because there's people who believe the opposite of what you believe.
Right.
That all they do is sex change people,
right.
Or whatever. They're not worried about the jock that's coming, or the dad that's coming in there. He wants more energy. They're worried about people who want to transition.
Right.
It's great. And so when you said that, I said to myself, man, there's people right now thinking like, man, that's not right. You're not being very inclusive, but you don't have to be. In fact,
well, you don't. And here's the thing about it is like, you get to choose which business you want. But why don't I get to choose the customers that I want?
Exactly. And I only
because like you can like choose to go somewhere else. Like, yes. Why aren't you being inclusive and choosing me in my coffee shop?
Yes.
It's like, well, because you have a right to choose.
But I only bring it up to I just want to normalize that. Like, don't get mad at somebody who runs a bit like there's a coffee shop here in town, and everything about our culture, they're the opposite. I don't have anything to say about that. I don't have anything to say with it. I wouldn't go there. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to support them. Like there was an instance.
We're not going to be able to have a 1-star review.
I'm not exactly. I'm not going to do anything to try to hurt them other than take my business somewhere else. Like that's it. One story I heard about them was like there was a fire. The fire department responded to a call close by. I get a lot of police officers, firefighters here. They go in there and they told them, "You're not welcome here." They wouldn't even sell them a coffee. Is it the firefighters, not even the police? The firefighter, because it was, kind of right after the defund the police movement that happened here in St. Louis. The fire department went in there. They wouldn't even serve them. What are you talking about? Who are you going to call if your building catches on fire? Like, what are you? Anyway, I digress from that. But I won't support a shop like that. But I'm never going to try to like tear somebody's business down, because I know what it costs for them to get that going. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about, I know what somebody had to do to get that shop to where it's at.
Right.
Because I've been there. So I just think we should normalize letting people do their thing, because I enjoy the freedom to take a stand every day. I enjoy it so much that I would never infringe upon your opportunity to do the same thing, because it's just so short-sighted for you to try to stamp out somebody's voice, because what you're doing is stamping out your own right to have a voice.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
First speech is only
it's crazy.
Like First Amendment's only for one side.
It's only for you because if you say this, like it's just crazy. But even with business, it just blows my mind how people don't see that. Like, don't try to ruin a business for standing for certain things, because tomorrow somebody could try to ruin your favorite coffee shop because they stand for the opposite thing.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Anyway, can you tell I have some
totally
I have some experience?
But it's like,
that's cool though. I really think that's awesome, just seeing the ripple effect.
Well, because I got it from somebody else. They're like, we don't do that. And I go, I like that. I'm going to adopt that.
Amen.
Because they were not afraid to stand in what they believed in. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And there's owners of HRT Clinic who actually do the serving. I just do the marketing. And so I'm not even seeing the client, but I'm not going to bring you clients.
They're turning away that money.
Right. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, when it comes to a business owner, as we said before, people will stand with you based on what you believe in.
Amen. Yeah, they really will.
And I have people that we work with, but because we work with certain people, they're like, we like this person and what they stand for. And if they work with you, I want to work with you, because that means that you're a stand-up person too. That's all. When I think about myself as a business owner, I feel like that's the most you could hope for, is that when people like, when there's a cause or an opportunity for somebody to work with you, that it could be done on a handshake because of your reputation, because of who you are, because of how you've handled business, because of how you've handled yourself. That's like, I feel like I watched that actually. I used to work for a couple guys, and one of them, both of them really were somewhat mentors to me. But he told me one time that he did $100 million in business on a handshake. There's no contract. It was an ongoing demand. They needed some raw material to make their products, and they had grown. The business had grown significantly since they started using this raw material supplier. And so the raw material supplier was like, "Hey, we're going to have to invest, some tens of millions of dollars in new equipment to keep up with your demand. Can we put this in writing to ensure that we'll keep your business to justify this tens of millions of dollars of investment?" And he was like, no, if we can't, we've been in business together this long. If we can't do it on my word, then we can't do it at all. And they went through with it. They invested tens of millions of dollars in new equipment, and they proceeded to take $100 million in material from this person, all on a handshake, no guarantees. You know the crazy thing about that?
What?
They had a choice.
They had a choice.
They got a choice. The business can choose to do business with the other business or not.
Or you could, or you could. This
goes right back to the conversation we just had.
It's amazing, right? Man. But anyway, that I took away from that story, like, man, I want to be that kind of business owner. Somebody will invest tens of millions of dollars on my word. On my word.
Yeah.
So,
and not only that, business word, it's also the reputation. Because like we've made it this far.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah. And
so, like the people we work with, like the coaches and whatnot, like we don't do contracts.
Yeah.
It's a month to month.
Month to month. If I'm ever not doing my job,
if you present me with a contract, I'm concerned.
Ooh, I think all consumers.
Why do you have to have a contract?
Everybody should think that way. Like, think about when you go to a gym. I hate it when a gym tries to lock you into a year contract. I hate it. If this gym is good and if it's worth the money, then why do I have to sign a contract? Why do you need to lock me in? I always used to think that.
Well, I can tell you why.
Why?
Because people are lazy.
Oh, I know.
Now, here's the thing about it, though. See, the way I kind of view it is depending on the business type, right? I was saying I use, because I obviously work with fitness coaches, right? And so, like, people want to lose weight when they walk past the mirror. They change their mind when they walk past the pantry. So it's a fickle business model.
Yeah.
And most gyms, 20% of them make it to 5 years. So, which is they have to have the money coming in. Now, here's an interesting concept, though. Planet Fitness, it doesn't have a contract, and there's no fee for canceling this, that, whatever, which means that they cancel, and then people will just come right back because of how easy it was to get out of the contract. Whenever you're doing business and you have a contract, and I have to get out of it or something happens other than just like, okay, sounds good, we'll take care of it, I'm never coming back to your business.
Yeah.
Ever. And so, for example, like 24-hour fitness, right? If it's a 90-day cancellation policy and I got to pay 3/4 of what's left, I ain't never coming back to 24-hour fitness ever. Yeah. And I don't know if that's our policy. I'm just making that up. But the concept is I'm not going to any of the chains. I lost all my business. Versus Planet Fitness makes you to where it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come back. Because every year you're going to get that same membership for that 3 months.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 year you'll stick to it. But probably not, because that's their business model.
I hate their business model. They got pizza on
Brilliant business.
They got pizza on Fridays.
Here's the thing, though. I've never actually heard somebody that goes there actually get pizza on a Friday. I think they just, it's like this like thing. And it never actually happens.
No, I've definitely seen it.
So you have a gym membership? You go?
No, that was the first gym I ever went to. So this is back when I was in high school. I don't know if they still do it, but I can definitely confirm.
Well, from a business standpoint, they got 10,000 members in a place that only can hold about 200 people on the floor at a time. And so it's a genius business model.
Isn't that crazy?
Because here's the thing is that they have basically, let's say 30,000 people in a town, and they'll run through all of them. And the thing about it is that the reason that gyms fail is because people need something new, right? Like we need some new stimulus, whether it's new plants, new color walls, new equipment. That's why you've never been to the same gym for 10 years.
Yeah.
You need something different, right? Tell us why fairs happen. So with that being said, though, it's like they're able to capitalize on a small town.
Yeah.
And get all the people. And then it's the same 30,000 people signing up, just 10,000. And then those some cancel, and then people re-sign up, and then they cancel, and these people re-sign up. So it's a revolving door of the same traffic.
Yeah.
Which is why it becomes a great business model.
Yeah, it's smart. It definitely is. All right. Well, dude, I'm super grateful that you decided to come on, and I didn't even realize, honestly. I texted Jack. Was it today or yesterday? Today. I'm like, do we got a podcast today? Are we recording? He's like,
yeah. He hit me up. We're supposed to do it like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm gonna be out of town.
Man.
And I was like, then but I was like, I'm moving in like 10 days. And I was like, this is the last night. So I got in last night at midnight, and I was like, I gotta make it.
Yeah,
I gotta make it.
I'm so grateful, man. I really am, especially since I know you can barely walk.
Don't call me out. Don't call me out.
I know you can barely walk, but no, I'm really grateful, not only for your time tonight, but like, man, I'm just so grateful for your friendship. I think so highly of you, and I know we haven't spent that much time together, but like, from going to the Cardinals game, conversations at Bible study, going to dinner with you and Paula. I mean, like, you've earned a tremendous amount of respect and admiration from me in a very short amount of time. And so I really appreciate it. And I'm sad that you're leaving. I really am sad that you're moving, but I'm happy for you. And I just hope that, I pray honestly that, that the distance doesn't really create any emotional distance. But I am grateful for your input tonight. I'm grateful for your mentorship and your guidance. You've helped me a lot in business. We didn't even talk about it tonight. But Mike is tremendously good at business. His sales marketing brain is extraordinary. He actually owned a coffee company before. So when I was first getting started, he gave me some advice. I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, dude, just all that to say thank you. Thank you for your time. I
appreciate it, man.
And your friendship. Yeah. Anything you want to leave people with, and then also let them know sort of where to find you.
Yeah. So easiest place is just Instagram, Mike_Crowson, CROWSON. What to leave people with?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. Always. But it's only hard if you give up.
Yeah.
It's just part of the journey, man. I've had so much happen that Paula's shocked that I'm still nice. But it's a choice, man. Like, you either get to show up every day with a smile on your face and try to get after it and make things happen, or you get to roll over and let things happen to you. So the thing I want to leave people with is and just keep showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got one life.
Yeah.
Like, live it. Don't worry what other people say. Just do what it is what you want to do. Stand for what you believe in, and just enjoy it. Like, it sounds so cliche, I know, but you got one life, man.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
And just enjoy the shit out of it. Because I work really, really hard. I take more vacations than anybody you know. But no one talks about that.
Yeah.
They just talk about, like, dude, you work like long hours, you work hard. I'm like, yeah, I travel about 15 times a year too.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
yeah,
some of it's work, but like, I'm on a plane somewhere doing something fun.
Yeah.
And so, but those are all choices, man. You can like live miserably and hate it, or you can let change happen to you, or you can create change. And I'm a really big believer that you create change. 3 years is a long time. Amen. You can move out of state anytime you want. You can change careers anytime you want. You just got to take action. And if there's one thing you know about me, is my new tombstone saying is probably going to be something around action.
My new tombstone. They ain't gonna say he was the nicest guy.
It's like, that man took action.
That man was action oriented. Dang. It really is. I know it does sound cliche, but it's just so true. It's like, you only get one shot at this thing. I mean, as far as we know, none of us knows anything else. You only get one shot. So just use it. Well, thanks, Mike. Thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next time.